Okay, quickly let's review what we have done yesterday. Um, so we've understood about what are the skills that are required. Um, what are the skills that are required for a professional to be called as a strategic business leader? So as part of this, we did see that it is important to be a leader. Should know how to lead the team. Then the ability to think strategically, that's another aspect of it. After that, we've understood about what are the professional skills one should have to um, appear for this exam, and then exhibit those skills. See, as part of each of the skills, what is the requirement is also given. So you need to understand that and then exhibit these skills in the examination. So 20% of the weightage would be allotted to these skills. So it's just not sufficient that you have the subject knowledge. You look into the concepts and then understand them thoroughly, able to express them. But more than that, applying these concepts into the situation and the ability to take the decision. So understand that, communicate, then acumen, applying this kind of knowledge to similar situations, taking a decision. See, skepticism is another thing, analyzing, evaluating. So these are the skills that are required. Okay, so I will also help you to answer the case studies. See, Monday, we thought of taking it up on Monday. In Monday's class, we'll do at least one case study from the topics what we have covered until then. Um, so today we will just go through the content. Content is vast. Just remember that the syllabus is vast. The many topics. See, conceptually, you need to remember. Also, have to understand then how do you apply these things um, to the situations, and then um, come out with a solution or whatever is expected of you. Able to provide a solution to that. So that is what is important. We've understood about what's the concept of strategic planning. The strategic planning is to achieve the organization's basic purpose. Various objectives are set. So these objectives are based on internal, external, and stakeholder analysis. And then when there is a comparison of the expected performance with the desired or the target performance, if they both are on par, they match, no issue. But if at all, if there is a gap that exists between these two, then measures have to be taken to close the gap. So for that, there are different strategic options available. So choose among the different alternatives that are available. Plan and implement that. As implementation happens, there is a review and control to correct the deviation. So that is about the strategic planning. We've understood 3 different levels of management. Then Johnson Schools and Whittington talks about as part of the strategic planning. First thing is um, the strategic analysis has to be taken up. How to take up the strategic analysis. Then we have understood that analyzing the internal and external analysis. So strategic analysis should be taken up, and then um, what are the alternative courses of action which are available or alternative plans that are available. So strategic choices, among them, different choices are there, different alternatives are there. So from among them, any one which is taken up, implemented. Then in the at the time of implementation, any kind of a deviation or based on the review, some other course of action has to be taken, appropriately it is taken up. So this is the triangle or given about the strategic planning by JSW, Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington. After that, we've understood about strategic drift. whenever there is a change that happens, along with that change, the organization also has to change so that it can adjust to the other factors, external environment. But if at all, if there is a resistance to change and then do not change as per the changes that are happening in the external environment, later on this can result in um, business failure also. So we see that what are the different phases where changes are do take place. The first one is incremental change, where it is a step-by-step logical slow growth which happens. Strategic drift is more than what is anticipated. If there is a change that happens, it has to be changed accordingly. Then the third phase is about flux, where there is a drastic change. So sometimes there is a requirement to even redesign the entire process and then change. And then finally, either it is a transformation, get back onto the track, or maybe it has reached that saturation point. So decline would be the next thing. So demise of that. We've learned about the different analysis, different models under these analysis. Under external analysis, according to our syllabus, there are three models given. Take up a pestle analysis, understand what are the political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal factors that affect the organization. Then we've learned two models given by Porter. One is Porter's five forces model, another one is Porter's diamond model. So Porter says that there are five forces of competition which have to be faced. Analyze, see, under each of these forces, there are many points which we have discussed yesterday. So just remember those things, and then the approach to the answer should be see whether these forces do affect the business in a negative sense, or the business has already overcome these things. Therefore it is in a position to create a barrier to these things, or successfully is able to face the competition in terms of new entrants, competitive rivalry. See how can the power of the supplier and the buyer can be faced. That is the option was about integration, either backward or forward integration. So similarly, if the supplier and the buyer also are thinking about integration, then that again can create a threat to the business. The final thing is the threat of substitutes. Okay. Diamond model, it's a recommendation of Porter talking about they should enter into global market, foreign markets, because there are certain factors which are favorable to explore them. The main reason behind entering into global market is maximization of profit. So here in this case, he talks about four factors. Maybe because the demand conditions are very favorable. So to explore that, business should consider entering into the foreign market. Factor conditions, so the factors of production, these things are available with them. So to get benefit out of that. Related and supporting industries, maybe they are also present there. So there would be no issue in terms of establishing the main business unit there. Then maybe the strategy structure and the rivalry among the competitors is very easy to chase it or face it. Therefore, they should consider entering into a global market. But of course, that also has its own limitations. The model did not completely study about the different types of economies. That is only basing on the developed economies. Um, uh, Porter has come out with this model. So he did not look into what would be the scenario if it is underdeveloped or developing economy. Okay. Um, See, then again, his model was also criticized on the account that um, he was talking about the business unit entering into the foreign market, but he did not discuss anything about foreign players entering into the market. So it was only one way. So he was discussing about that. So that was considered as a limitation. Another limitation is, see, now that it is all a global market because of the connectivity through the internet. See, even if there is physically no presence of any particular service business in another country, also still services are provided. We see that um, see on the online platforms, we see that services are provided. So they're all connected. They're all so technically one business moving into a foreign market to capture the see the demand, etc., and then take it up, may not be applicable to a service business. So that's how diamond model is criticized. Okay. And then internal analysis as part of the internal external analysis. So internally, first we need to understand about the capabilities what they have. So it talks about the resources which they possess and the competency. So if what they have, even the competitors have, so they are called as basic resources, or the competencies are called as threshold competencies. See, the advantage, the competitive advantage can be gained only when what they have the competitors do not have. Okay, so the resources will be considered as unique resources, and the competencies are called as core competence. So these things will give them a competitive advantage. I did explain to you about what are CSFs, those factors that are important to achieve success. So critical success factors. Okay. And we've understood the difference between CSFs and competencies. CSFs are what they need to do good. So what is that they have to do well, so that they can have the chance of success. So they need to do good, and competencies are what they're already good at. So that's the difference. Value chain analysis. So there's a model given by Porter again. He talks about the internal environment in terms of the activities. So they are broadly classified as um, primary and secondary. So primary activities are inbound logistics, operation, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and finally the after sale customer service. But these activities are not possible without the help of the support activities. So there are 4 support activities: infrastructure, technology development, HRM, and then procurement. All of them together, they add value to the customer. So that's the concept of value chain. So then we did discuss about SWOT analysis, and then we are doing performance analysis. As part of performance analysis, quantitative analysis was discussed. I did explain to you benchmarking, Baldrige performance excellence. No, we did finish that. Then strategic choices. This model was the last one which we have discussed. So the strategies for competitive advantage are, see, Porter has classified the industry or the market in 2 different aspects. One is the market should be looked at as a broad market, or it is a narrow market. So in a broad market, we see that there are alternatives available in terms of cutting down on the cost. Cost leadership is one strategy. Um, if they focus on cutting down on the cost, then they can be benefited. See, even in situations where they have to bring down the selling price, also they still would be benefited because their costs are absolutely under control. Then differentiation is adding in more features to their existing products to differentiate their products from the products of the competitors to gain a competitive advantage. If it is a narrow market, whatever is prevailing has to be followed. Done. Okay. Tomorrow I won't revise because it is taking a lot of time. Content is very, very vast. See, we need to learn so many models. So there is a next model. We are, this is all as part of strategic choices. The choices of the alternatives that are available in order to close the gap that is there between the desired outcome and the expected outcome. See the target versus what is predicted. See predicted or forecasted ones will those I mean, the performance based on that is possible by way of taking up different analysis, internal, external. So, what are they good at? What is that they can achieve? So, when it is understood that it is not possible to achieve what they desire, what the organization desires to achieve, if there is a gap between that, then consider either they can go for cost cutting or they can go for differentiation. Okay, then we see what are the different strategies that are available. The strategic clock, this is a model. So there are two variables. One variable is given on the horizontal axis. We see that there is a price, and on the vertical axis we see that what is the perceived products and or service benefits. So how do the customer looks at these things? We see that the price is on the lower side, the value that is assumed by the customer to derive from the products or services is low. Low price, low perception, low assumption that the value that is added is also on the lower side, need not be bothered so much, because no frills, need not be so much be worried or be bothered about that, because the factor is that the price is on the lower side. But let's say if the price is on the higher side, the customers would take into account what is the value that the products offer. See when the price when the price is low, they may not be too worried or they may not be too bothered. But as soon as we see that the price starts moving to the higher end, it starts increasing, that is when the problem starts. So if the price is high, it better offers a high value on the products and services. So if it is the case, see, if the price is on the higher side and the value is perceived to be high, so the strategy about what they would offer or adopt is differentiation. So differentiation, they better add more features. So their product should be definitely much different from others. So that is how see high priced products, um, so they vouch for high quality. They vouch for additional features. So see, among the smart, see, of late nobody is talking about ordinary phones. So among the smartphones also we see there are smartphones. Then extreme end is the iPhone. So iPhone, I mean, talks about, see, there are many things which are associated with iPhone. So there are, apart from the features, see, there is a brand identity also. So they better differentiate their product from others because of the fact that the price is quite high. Okay, as it moves towards the high price, see, the value should always be on the higher end. If the price is on the lower end, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter so much about what is the value. So at the low price, low is the value that is offered. See, no frills, no issues with that. But as the if the price is on the lower side but the value keeps increasing, we see that hybrid model is adopted in terms of see, price is low but better features are provided on the product. But as soon as the price keeps increasing, if they do not differentiate their products from the products of the competitors, the next threat what is seen is, if the value keeps falling, the consequence of that is the strategy will fail. Okay, so if the value should always be provided as high, differentiated, but if the value is at the lower side, there is a danger that we see 6, 7, and 8. As soon as the value, the price increases, and if still the value is on the lower side, all these things are fail. The strategy that will fail. Okay, so it is very much dependent on for the products, what is the value that is offered on that. How to sustain the competitive advantage? Now, competitive advantage would be, see, when do they have the competitive advantage? See, when they possess certain things which the competitors do not possess. So in terms of resources, in terms of competencies. See, the competitive advantage lies with when their resources are unique, when their competencies are core, which are not there with others. So once that they gain the competitive advantage, in that case, how to sustain that? Ensure that the competitive advantage they continue to enjoy over their competitors. The capabilities that are needed to sustain competitive advantage are value of strategic capabilities, okay, rarity of strategic capabilities, and robustness of strategic capabilities. So they have to ensure that the strategic capabilities what are available with them, um, ensure that the value that is offered by these unique resources and the core competencies do add value to the customer. So ensure that there is value added by these capabilities, then only they can continue to have that competitive advantage. See, better enhanced value has to be added to the customers. So customers have to be, they have to be satisfied. So efforts have to be put into ensure that the customers are satisfied. So as long as these strategic capabilities can add value to the customers, then for that long time they will have the competitive advantage. Then these capabilities should be unique. Ensure that, see, they manage to have these capabilities different from the competitors. So uniqueness should be there. Rarity, uniqueness. Then robustness. See, it should be something different from what the competitors are offering. Okay, robustness. See, ensure that competitor will not be able to copy what they are providing. See, so that kind of an exercise has to be put in. So as long as they set them apart or different from the competitors, they will be able to have the competitive advantage. That's about sustaining competitive advantage. Then we see other ways to gain competitive advantage are innovation is required. See, innovation in every aspect of it. Innovation, we just cannot limit innovation in terms of manufacturing, in terms of producing the product, but every activity that is taken up has to have some innovation. See, starting from the main operation, the production activity, till the final disclosure, right at the time of reporting also, there should be some amount of innovation built into their processes, um, so that they would be valued better than the competitors by the customers. Knowledge management, this encourages innovation and sharing. So share this knowledge with others, and it reduces complexity. It also ensures continuity as staff turnover. What staff turnover? When there are changes in the workforce, then that would be referred to as staff turnover. So when they share the knowledge with others, this encourages innovation and sharing, and it reduces complexity. So people in the organization would be well aware. See, knowledge management, they can have uh, databases created, and people, employees in the organization, if they are given access to the database or they are provided training from time to time, their skills are developed, then in that case, the knowledge, if it is shared among the employees, they would be satisfied, more motivated to perform better, and then they may not think of leaving the organization. So that is about knowledge management. Sustaining competitive advantage, how they can have, what a competitive advantage they have, how can they sustain that competitive advantage. After that, see, we have started with this aspect about what are the competitive strategies, strategic clock, and then maintaining competitive advantages. Next aspect of it here is what are the growth strategies. Then we will talk about strategy evaluation. See, when the business carries on with the activities period after period, then see, incrementally, some changes do happen. See, in terms of performance, they would perform better than the previous year. That is incremental change, incremental growth that happens. For an organization to achieve its main objective, the mission, the goal of the organization, to achieve that, if they depend on the incremental changes, let's say they wait period after period for some change to happen, some growth to happen, um, it is a time consuming process until the time they achieve their basic purpose. That is also growth. See, because they would not stagnate at a particular point. The performance would not be stable every year, but definitely it will tend to grow. Tend to grow in terms of the number of units sold, in terms of the profit margin which they have achieved, etc. Okay, that growth is called as incremental growth. But sometimes the business unit is quite ambitious, want to achieve the growth as quick as possible. Okay, so depending on that, what are the what are the different strategies, or the focus areas when they want to grow? What are the focus areas which they have to have? There is a matrix explained by ENSOF. ENSOF explains that in terms of growth, in terms of growth, what are the different strategies that are available with the business unit? For that, he explains that in terms of two variables. The horizontal variable here given is products, and on the vertical axis we see the variable called as markets. Products and markets. Since the business is already present there in the market, so it he talks about to look into, in a particular market, are they already present? See, globally they may not be present everywhere. Definitely they would first start with the domestic market. So whether they are present in a particular market, existing market, and they are already selling a product, so existing product. So on the products, on the horizontal axis, we see on the left side it is existing products. On the right side, if they are planning to come out with a new product. And on the vertical axis, on the top it is existing market. They are already present in the market. Then it is about entering into new market. So what are the focus areas? What is that they have to focus on? Let's say the first quadrant has the products are existing products. They are already present in the market. Okay, so then what should they do? They are already um, they are already present in a particular market with already their products are being sold in that market. In that case, the strategy which has to be adopted is just not be satisfied with what they are selling, but identify if there are any unexplored areas in the market. Is there any customer group or segment whom they have not catered to? Identify that, identify and attract those customers. So get deep into the market, identify, explore the areas where they it is possible for them to reach out to those um, customers. See, health drinks. See, they're generally the lower income level people were not. They would not use those products sometime till some time back because of the price part of it. Price is definitely high. Maybe the affordability was not there or something. So they have to reach to that particular level. They started coming out with small sachets as low a price as 5 rupees also. So see, whenever they can afford, they can buy that. So that is exploring into the exploring the unexplored areas and reaching out to them. So that's one example what we can call. See, otherwise, uh, see the people with a decent income levels, they uh, thought of buying those products. So maybe pricing it at 200 or 300, 400. See, there are different prices again for these kind of products, but that was not reaching to the lower income level people. So what did they come out? Alternative was to make it into smaller packets. So whenever they can afford, at least they can buy at those times. So that was one aspect about penetrating into the market. They are already present. There's nothing new about that particular product. There is no differentiated features of that. They did not lower down the quality. They did not lower down the price, but the availability made it into a different form. Okay, so instead of a bigger packet, they made it into a smaller packet. So that way, there was an effort to reach out to those areas where it never reached earlier. So it is the same market, it is the same product, but penetrating into the market. Okay, let's say if the product is an already existing product, but if they have to enter into the market, sometimes we are aware of certain brands which are being sold in foreign markets, but then in that case, if the foreign player wants to enter into the domestic market, the customers are aware of what the product is, but reaching out to the customers, so then they have to understand the market dynamics, they have to understand the competitive strategies, who are the competitors, how to face that. So focus on that. The product is already existing. See, there is awareness of the product, but they now are entering into a new market. So if it is a new market and then the product is already an old product being sold in another market, but entering into now a new market. So in that case, we see that existing product entering into the new market need not be focused so much on the product part of it. Product is not the criteria, market is the criteria. So think about how to develop on the market dynamics and then reach out to the customers in that new market. Let's say they are present in the market. Okay, they're already present in the market, but they are coming out with a new product. Coming out with a new product, the market in the market, the customers are aware of their company, their brand, what they're good at. But since they have added a new product to their product line, the focus should be on coming out with the product which can maintain the reputation. So focus should be on product development. The focus, entire focus or the strategy should be in terms of developing a new product which can attract the old customers and then do well in the market. So the market is already there. The customers are aware of that particular brand. Okay. Um, they understand about what kind of products um, the company provides. But here now, when a new product is introduced, so this product should continue to attract the old customers. So they need not be worried about attracting the customers because they already know about the company, the different types of products the company is providing. So this time they need to focus only on the product development. So product development is the strategy which has to be adopted. But let's say it's a new product and the market is also new. So the strategy is about diversification. Entering into new areas with new products. So focus should be um, catering to the development of the product and also attracting the customers. So the market dynamics have to be understood, and also the quality of the product also has to be taken care of it. So it is about the diversification. So this is a model explained by Ensof. So what strategy is appropriate to in a particular situation? If let's say that is what is given in the question, you should think about what is that, what is the focus area, how should they develop their strategies, and then what is the focus area, how they have to come out with or what they have to concentrate on. That should be your suggestion, okay, depending on what is the existing scenario there in the question. I hope it is clear. Okay. um See, diversification, if we talk about diversification, who's that, whose camera is on? Doesn't matter, I'm not supposed to get distracted. Diversification. So how can they think about diversification? So the diversification aspect of it is, yesterday in Porter's five forces model, we did learn about integration, see, forward integration, backward integration. So you understand the concept of diversification, moving backward, forward in the supply chain, acquiring the source of raw material and then making an arrangement for themselves, or moving ahead, moving forward, and then able to reach out to the customers directly. Okay. So that is about forward and backward integration. So forward vertical integration, backward vertical integration. Apart from that, acquiring another business on the same level. So somebody who's uh, producing and selling similar type of products. So acquiring that business or enter into that particular area, and then horizontal diversification. So that would be on the same level. See, the other business is also producing a similar type of product. So that would be horizontal diversification. Enter into that particular, acquire that particular business. Okay. Sometimes it is a conglomerate where it is unrelated, completely unrelated products. So they may also acquire a business like in that manner. See, Tata recently has acquired Airways. In the airways business, um, Air India company. So they have they were not into that earlier. So it was acquiring completely unrelated diversification. So venturing into new areas. But see, otherwise, Tata was known for being present in the consumer goods. They were known in automobiles. They were known for their quality products or affordable products in different categories. So that was completely unrelated to enter into a new area, acquiring a business. Air India company they have acquired for whatever is the reason. So that helps them to I mean the main focus about diversification would be to, even if they make loss in particular area, they can make good the loss by earning profits in other areas. So um, this would be one strategy about minimizing the loss, mitigating strategies to minimize the loss, and ensure that they can make a profit. So yesterday I did explain to you about forward backward integrations, but apart from that, they can also think about entering into areas where by acquiring a business producing a similar type of product. So that is horizontal diversification. Both of them are on the same level. Okay, that's horizontal diversification. Acquiring another business where it is completely unrelated, so then it would be called as a conglomerate. Okay, unrelated businesses, if they acquire that, so that's another type of diversification. So they can focus in these areas. It's a new product, it is a new market. Once the strategy is decided, so we are all studying, I mean, we are studying all these topics as part of strategic planning. Once the strategies are prepared, so any plan that is prepared has to be implemented, should not be the case. See, of course, after thorough analysis, looking into internal aspects, external aspects, the expectations of the stakeholders, all that taking into account, only strategies would be prepared. So before they are implemented, they have to go through these three different tests. One is suitability, one is acceptability, and one is feasibility. Okay, the strategy that is prepared should be suitable to the purpose of the to the what we call the purpose for which the organization is established, or whether it suits to the objectives of the organization, what they want to achieve. Okay, it is suitable to the nature of the business which they have. So that suitability has to be tested. The strategy, will it suit to their business, because that business has a particular purpose. So does it suit in that particular context? Suitability has to be tested. Acceptability, there are many stakeholders. Can you list some of the stakeholders? Who are the different types of stakeholders? Any examples of stakeholders? Who's there? Who which groups are there? Who are all stakeholders? One or two at least. Can put it in. Customers, yes, very good. Customers are one stakeholder. Shareholders, government, employees, okay, suppliers, general public. Then we see environmentalist creditors, environmentalist groups, then um, trade unions, okay, media. All of them are stakeholders. So now the strategy that is prepared, is it acceptable to the stakeholders? See, it is not possible to make a to get the acceptability of all the stakeholders. It may not be possible, but whoever are the key stakeholders, of course, always the first in the category is the shareholders, because most of them, the profit seeking organizations, most of them have the primary objective as a profit maximization. So key stakeholders are shareholders, investors, then we see customers, then okay, so most of the key stakeholders, is this strategy suitable to them? Okay, acceptable to them. I'm really sorry. Is it acceptable to them? So acceptability of the strategy by the stakeholders. So it has to be tested. Because everybody should be agreeing to this strategy may not be a possibility, but then at least the key stakeholders should agree on the strategy. Feasibility is it practically possible for them to implement such a strategy? See, desired see, they could be quite ambitious, so they can have a strategy which is framed, which is designed to achieve the best possible result, but it should be feasible, it should be practically possible to achieve that, because the internal analysis, when it is taken up, they do understand the weaknesses of the business. So that's one aspect of it. There are threats present in the external environment, so they may have the desire to achieve something, but it may not be practically possible to achieve those strategies. So the strategy also has to be tested in terms of, is it feasible, is it possible for them to achieve that strategy. So every strategy that is prepared has to go through these three different tests, whether it suits the business, the nature of the business, suitability is there, whether it is acceptable to all the stakeholders or most of the stakeholders, the key stakeholders at least, then whether it is practically possible to implement such a strategy. See, the plan should be achievable. So then only it motivates the employees to implement such strategies. See, something which is very difficult to achieve, they lose the interest, they feel demotivated, nothing can be achieved if such a strategy is prepared. So therefore it they also have to test whether it is feasible for them to have such a plan or such a strategy in place. Okay, so these are the three different key tests that have to be taken up in terms of evaluating the strategy evaluation. I hope that's clear. Then we'll start with chapter 6. Okay, chapter 6, what are the methods of strategic development? Methods of strategic development. We would be looking at how to implementing growth and assessing the business units. Here again, we see there are different models which we need to learn. Implementing growth. So we are talking about the growth aspect. Implementing growth, how would they grow? If we are talking about implementing growth, and okay, growth can be looked at as organic growth. Okay, growth can be looked at as a dynamic growth. Okay, organic growth, see, organic is naturally what happens. See, or when it is organic, it is time consuming, it doesn't happen quickly. So therefore now I think we also have this concept of organic products. See, the agricultural products, they claim that these are organic products. So what do they say? There was no fertilizer used, or there was no fast growing strategy used in terms of producing these agricultural products. You must have come across that. They do not depend on any artificial methods to grow that, allow that plant to grow all by itself. Time is only the criteria there. So naturally it grows all by itself. So there's no external support like a fertilizer, pesticides, etc., with which the plant gains some strength and grows. So that is all not there. So naturally it grows. That's the concept of organic. The business also, without having any other external support, if it is allowed to grow all by itself, time is only the criteria. As the time passes by, when the organization grows gradually, then we call that to be as organic growth. Okay. See, organic growth, we see there is internal development. It is easier to control. That's a question mark. Can be risky if not enough skills or experience are there. So, under organic growth, see, because as the time passes by, there is efficiency which can be achieved because of economies of scale, because of doing things in a better manner, doing better than the previous time by consuming less amount of time, okay, by economizing on the uh, cost, by saving on the resources. There is some amount of growth that can be achieved. So it is an effort of internal development. Okay. Um, See, additional efforts are not required. See, what was done last period, it would be continued to be done in the current period also. Some amount of change would be there. So it is manageable within their reach to manage that kind of growth. So the question is about, is it easier to control? So easier to control. Um, then can be risky if not enough skills or experience. Um, what was managed in the past period has to be managed now also. So only thing is, there are, whatever is the incremental growth which is anticipated to happen, they need to have sufficient skills to manage that incremental growth. Therefore, so if that kind of skills are already present with them, then it is manageable, it is easier to control. But if they do not have those things to take up anything additional than what was done in the previous period, then it would be a little risky to manage that. So uh, that's one internally, that's one aspect. If they are depending on internal growth and if they are depending on organic growth, the market, the competitors are growing at a different level, then surviving in the market becomes a difficult aspect. See, with the same performance as in the past periods, if they continue to have the same performance, if the market is growing at a completely different level, let's say the market things have changed drastically, they have joined hands with others, they are growing in size, capacity, volume, etc., facing such a competitor then becomes difficult. So do they have those skills to face competition at that level? That is another aspect which has to be looked into. If it is, if the growth is at a is organic growth, if it is at a level which is not very dynamic, which they are not keeping themselves on par with the competitors. So that's about organic growth. Another alternative about growth is by this is a dynamic growth by considering mergers and acquisitions. So what does it mean by mergers and acquisitions? Joining hands with others or acquiring another business is about acquisition. What happens if there is merger or acquisition? Okay, already they are operating at some capacity level, have a market share, customer base, everything they have acquired. After that, is there any sound disturbance coming? Because in the neighborhood there is something going on. Is it disturbing? You just let me know. Then I will think about closing the door or something. Is it disturbing? So, is there any kind of disturbance in terms of sound? Okay, done. Fine. Okay. Since they are already operating at a particular level, um, they would have captured the market, the customer base, market share, all that would be enjoyed. Suddenly, by taking up another business, acquiring another business, joining hands with another business. See, unit one, if their business is unit one, competitors' business is unit two, taking over that business, 1 plus 2, that will become a bigger size. If they have captured 20% of the market and the competitor's business has captured 20% of the market, so when these two are joined together, it would be about having a market share of 40%. So the size immediately increases. When the size increases, the activity increases, the volume increases, the level of activity that is taken up, everything else increases. Okay, proportionately or not proportionately, the level of profit also increases. Okay, that is a dynamic growth. That would be instant. See, achieving a 100% growth rate may require 5 to 10 years, if or in an ordinary business, or it is anticipated that it would require 5 years. That 5 years growth can happen just in one at one point of time by just acquiring another business. That's dynamic growth. Okay, that is another aspect about implementing growth. So, what is that they would be considering? Would they wait for some time and then let the growth happen all by itself naturally, grow at an incremental pace? Time is the criteria, wait for that time and then grow, or grow at a dynamic pace by going for mergers and acquisitions. So when can an acquisition happen? When they can get a controlling stake in the other business, which is greater than 50%. So acquiring shares of another company, um, in the proportion, in the ratio of more than, or in the quantity of more than 50% of the shares if they acquire, I think an acquisition happens. So there are advantages of mergers and acquisition. First one, it talks about synergy. See, assess by synergy. What does it mean by synergy? See, individually, the benefits that can be achieved, okay, when these individual benefits are clubbed together, the sum total of it exceeds the total of the individual values. Generally, I mean, how do we explain? If there is benefit of 2 from one unit, if there is benefit of 2 from another unit, 2 plus 2 should be equal to 4. But the result of the addition, the result of joining together, is the sum total is greater than the individual items when they are totaled up. So 2 plus 2 is anything, any value greater than 4. That is synergy. So maybe they achieve a value of 5. So that becomes possible when mergers and acquisition happen. That's one benefit what can be seen. Another thing is, see, the skills which were earlier not available with their business, if they are available with another business, I think they can get advantage of those skills, and the skills which are present with their business can be used in the other business. Now that it has become one unit by merger and acquisition, so this skills can be transferred to manage different activities. What was confined to only their business, now that can be used in another business unit. Okay, so they become a parent company and the other unit becomes a subsidiary. So the skills can be used in the subsidiary. So also, if there are any skills available in the subsidiary, those skills can be used in their parent company. So that is transfer of skills. Okay, then activities can be shared, to get benefit out of this mergers and acquisition. So now everything increases in size, volume, profitability. So that is that we see that that is one advantage of growing at a dynamic pace. Okay. Then of course there are criticisms also, limitations also for mergers and acquisitions. Okay, what could be the limitation? Anything you can think about? So what issues would be there when they want to grow at this dynamic pace? There are problems with that also. It's not that in that case everybody will go around capturing another thing or uh, getting a controlling stake in another business. So the focus will be about that. If it is all profitable, it is all rosy, then everybody will think about mergers and acquisition. This dynamic growth comes at different risks, at a cost. What do you see are the problems? Anything? Just mention. Do you see any problem with such a kind of growth? One point at least. The first limitation, the first problem which arises is they have to acquire a controlling stake. So they have to purchase more than 50% of shares of the other business, for which funds are required. So all the funds will be blocked up in those in the acquisition, in acquiring the shares, to the extent that they may not have the working capital to run the business. See, funds are required from time to time to carry on with the business activities. To run the business, they do require working capital, but in pursuit of merger and acquisition to happen, they may utilize all the available funds with them, and they may be left with no funds at all to run the business. When the working capital is not available, that will have great impact on the liquidity and the reputation of the business. So gradually it can also turn out to be a failure of the business. That's a very big risk associated with mergers and acquisition. We need not only look at the positive thing, the growth aspect of it. It comes at a risk wherein um, no funds are available to run the business. That could be one thing. When they acquire another business, the skills that are required to run such a business may not be available with them. The management is not capable enough to manage such type of business. Then in that case, what happens? Then again, if they cannot manage that business, it will result in a failure. So we see that mergers and acquisition also happens at there is a cost that has to be paid for that if it is not managed effectively. As time comes, as situations arise, we will also discuss about other aspects of it. But don't ever think that this is all a very good decision about acquiring another business to grow. So it is also quite risky. See, implementing growth by joining hands with others or doing business in terms of alternative ways. Okay. See, joint venture, these are different types of joint development, joining hands with others, different aspects. Um, you would be knowing all of them. Just but let's just quickly run through what these things are. We see joint venture, business partnering, strategic alliance, license franchise agency. So, what is a joint venture? If we look into that, joint venture and strategic alliance is when people from different business units come together and carry on with the business activities. So, that would be about joint ventures and strategic alliance also. Joint venture, see, A and B come together and then they establish a new business unit, maybe called as AB. Um, that is joint venture. A and B come together to do the business, but they do not but they do not establish a new business unit. They just carry on with the activity. So that would be called as strategic alliance. So there is no business unit established as such in case of alliance. Partnering, we see partners contributing capital, pooling in their resources, and then coming together to start another business. It's partnership, business partnering. So we know what is business partnering. Then we see license, franchise, and agency. How do you differentiate license and franchise? Any one of you? How do we differentiate a license from a franchise? Any one of you? No idea. No idea. Nobody listening to me. Anyone need not differentiate. Just tell me what's the concept of licensing. Okay. Franchisee is running a business with another name. It is an agreement. See, another unit can be established under the brand name. That is franchisee. Allowing them to use whatever asset they have, an intangible asset they have, to get benefit out of that, allowing them to use their intangible asset and be benefited. That's licensing. But franchise is allowing them to yeah see he allowing them to start another business unit under the uh, brand title. That is franchising. So joining with others, allowing them to get benefit or share their license, and allowing others to get benefited out of that is license. Franchisee, allowing another entity to establish a business unit. As against that, they will be receiving a share in that income periodically. Okay. Appointing agents to start an agency to carry out their work. See, they would be working on behalf of the principal in the capacity of an agent. So it would be appointing someone as agents to take up the work on behalf of them. So in all these things, they are joining hands with others to carry out the activities on a joint basis. So this way also it becomes possible, because see, the as the activities keep increasing, as the size keeps increasing, it is not possible for a business unit to manage all by themselves. So they need to join hands with others to carry on with the activities. So maybe people from different units come together and start a joint venture, or by establishing a new unit, or without establishing a new unit, they can join the alliance. They join together, so there is no new unit as such which is which is established, sorry, which is established. They just come together, share their resources, their skills, expertise, all that, and then carry on with the business activities. Or partners coming together, pooling in their resources under a partnership by having the terms and conditions defined, and then getting benefit out of that. Okay. And then license franchisee, allowing others to do the business under whatever benefits they have, allowing them others to carry on with the activities. As against that, they do receive some amount as against this aspect. Agency appointing agents to act on their behalf, and carrying on the work. So this way also, joining hands with others also, growth is a possibility. Joint development. Study text has explained every aspect of it in detail. It explains what are the advantages and disadvantages. So common things, see, when they join hands with others, the first important thing is, um, it may not be on the same level. See, the first thing is, the privacy is lost. They will have to share the profits with them. No clarity about when there are losses, who would bear that. Okay, the expertise, the knowledge has to be shared with others. So it may not be beneficial for them because of the confidentiality issues which are shared with others. See, in terms of who would be contributing how much, no clarity would be there. Okay. Decision making control will be lost. So that is another aspect about it. So the risk is already present. The risk would be present when they join hands with others. To what extent these aspects can be. The advantage wise, we have, I mean, we've been discussing about the advantage. The size increases, the volume increases, activity increases, profit increases. That's the best part of it. Okay. But it comes along with that comes different aspects about losing control over decision making, uh, the clarity about how the losses would be borne, who would be contributing how much, so how much of the skills and expertise would be contributed by each one of them. So such kind of issues arise, and then those things would be looked into as risks or costs that are associated with joint development. Okay, so that's about growth. Okay. See, the aspect about is implementing growth, whether they would grow on an incremental manner or they would grow at a dynamic pace. About implementing growth. After that, assessing the business unit. So there is a model given here called as BCG matrix. We will learn about BCG matrix, one thing. Apart from that, there's another model which is given as public sector portfolio matrix. These are the two models which we have to learn. I will explain BCG matrix first. We'll go for a 5 minutes break and then continue with the other topics. See, BCG, now here it is about assessing the business units, this model, assessing business units, measuring the performance and categorizing them into different categories. See, this matrix has 4 different quadrants. So a business unit, based on what they have achieved, based on their performance, is categorized into the 4 different quadrants. The first one, here the image says it's a star. So it's a star category. The second one, the child is a problem child, or we also call this quadrant to be as a question mark. The third quadrant, there is a cow. It's called as cash cow. The last quadrant, there is a dog. Okay. So these are the different categories. When we are assessing the performance of a business unit, we categorize these business units into any of these quadrants. So depending on how did they perform. Okay. So to understand that, um, horizontally, on the horizontal axis, what's given, on the vertical axis, what is given has to be looked into. Depending on that, we would categorize the business unit into any one of these four quadrants. See, the variable that is there on the horizontal axis is called as relative market share. Market share is what? See, if the market, if in the industry, there are customers, some, let's say 100 customers are there, or the revenue that is generated by selling products to these 100 customers, if that is 100%, out of that, what percentage of revenue is the business unit able to earn, or how many customers were they able to capture? So we basically talk about market share as from the total revenue which can be earned from that industry, from that sector. What is the share of individual business unit? That is market share. So market share out of the total, the percentage of revenue which they can earn, which they are earning as of now, the present revenue which they have captured. Okay, how many customers were they able to attract, how much revenue are they generating from these customers, talks about the market share. Out of the total, 1% can be one thing, or if it is a term called as relative, whenever we use the term relative would be about in comparison to what is the standard. If, let's say, if there is a standard decided, if there is something expected to be as a normal for a particular industry, let's say the standard should be 20% of the market. So if they have captured 20% of the market, yes, the relative market share, relatively um, on comparison with what is the share of the market level. So on that note, we generally study. Nevertheless, whatever it basically talks about what their present performance. So were they able to capture the market? How much share of the total revenue are they as of now enjoying? How many customers did they attract? How much revenue are they generating? So it talks about the present performance. So relative market share talks about the present performance. Okay. So the calculation is given as anything between +1 to -1. So we can also talk about this to be as high. +1 can be taken to be as high, and -1 can be taken to be as low. So anything between high performance to low performance. So if they have captured a good percentage of market, high market share, or they have failed to do so, low market share. So that's the variable which we see on the horizontal axis. On the vertical axis, it talks about the percentage rate of market growth. See, growth talks about the possibility to grow in future. So as of now, this is what is available, but will it continue to grow? So sometimes some industries, they are still in the beginning stages, so there is lot of growth anticipated. See, for example, infrastructure is a industry where there is a lot of scope for growth. So it keeps growing period after period. There is scope, so people do consider investing into the securities of infrastructure companies. So investment into infrastructure companies, etc., because there is scope for them to grow. See, some of the industries, they have reached that saturation. There's no scope for them to grow. That's the maximum what is possible out of that particular industry. So they have reached that saturation. So no possibility to grow. But when growth, one important aspect with growth, what we have to remember is growth is not automatic. For growth to happen, additional investment has to be made. So additional cash investments are required. More funds have to be put into that particular industry. So that's when growth is possible. Otherwise, growth doesn't happen automatically. That's another important aspect we have to remember. See, some industries, some markets, there is chance for them to grow in the future. So the vertical axis is talking about the aspects about the future. So future possibility, will they be growing in the future or not? If there is a scope for them to grow, growth is on the higher side, which is greater than 10%. So quantitatively it is present. So it's on the higher side, or it is less than 10%, or there is no chance, or it has come to a stagnation, no possibility to grow on the lower side. So considering these two variables, the business unit would be categorized into, if the present performance is very good, it's on the higher side. Future also seems to be very attractive, bright, because the growth rate is high. So right now, good performance. Present performance is very good. They have captured the market. They seem to be continuing to do well in the future also. So such business units are categorized into this category called as stars, star category. Okay. As of now, if the business unit has not captured a good market share, but future seems to be bright. See, what they were not able to do until now can be done in the future, because see, when the market grows, when the industry grows, the business units in that industry also can participate in that growth. They also have a chance to grow along with the industry. So that's what is seen. So if they utilize that scenario, if they utilize that aspect of growth, they grow along with the industry, then they can be benefited. The industry is growing, the business units in the industry also will grow. So that is categorized as a problem child or a question mark. Why is it called as a problem child? I will in a short while explain to you. That's the second category. The third category is, at present the performance is very good. They have captured the market, but future, no scope for them. See, we do understand about the life cycle of business, any kind of product business or anything. It starts from introduction, then it grows, then it comes to the saturation, and what happens next is decline. So maybe some industries have reached that saturation point, that maturity saturation, beyond which there's no possibility to grow. So if that is the case, but they, since they have already captured the market, good amount of cash flows are generated. They are able to get benefit out of that, but future is not as attractive as it looks as of now. Right now, the position is really very good. They've reached that top level maturity maximum level, because they've captured the market. Cash flows are also generated, but future is not very attractive. So future growth possibilities are not there. So such a business unit is categorized into cash cow category. If a business unit has not done anything as of now, no scope for them to do it in the future also, no present, no future, then they are categorized as, those business units are categorized as dog. Dog units, once it is identified that the business unit falls into the category of dog, what next happens is they should be shut down, because nothing as of now, no future, no possibility to do well in the future also. So they should be shut down. So dogs are abandoned, these business units should be shut down. So that's the concept with categorizing the business units into these things. Why are we calling the second quadrant as a problem child? Problem child or a question mark? If we look into that, why is it a question mark? Is, until now their performance is not good. If they utilize and encash on the possibilities of growing, they grow well along with the market, this will move into the star category. If they continue to show this bad performance in the future also, when the market is growing, if they do not grow along with that, so then there is a danger that it can fall into the dog category. That's what's a problem child or a question mark. See, they have to get benefited out of the benefits of the market growing. When the market is growing, they should also grow along with that, exhibit that performance, capture the market, attract the customer base, and be benefited. If they are benefited, they can move into star category, or they will fall into dog category. What happens with dog category is, what next is shut down that particular business unit. Cash cow, because cash cow has already reached the maturity, what follows after that is decline. So because it is decline, see, no more additional investment anyway will be made, because no requirement of any additional investment, market is not growing, so no investment, additional investment is required. So what they have to think about is, before it comes to the decline part, they should think about divestment, withdraw their funds, invest in some other business where there are growth opportunities present. Okay, so cash cow should think about divestment very soon, because it will reach the decline stage. Before it reaches decline stage, so divestment is what can be considered by cash cows. As of now, the position is really very good. They are able to generate good amount of cash flows because of capturing the market. Okay, stars cannot be a stars forever. It is not an indefinite period of time that they will continue to, because stars, as of now, there is growth opportunities, therefore they grow along with the growth of the industry. But that growth also will come to saturation sometime or the other. So when it comes into the saturation category, it will fall into the cash cow category. So stars, as of now, they are stars, but future is not always that they would be stars. They may also reach that point where they reach that maturity saturation point. So when they reach that saturation, they would be called as cash cows. Okay. See, this is how the business units are assessed. What was thought about as a saturation, maturity, and what follows is decline, may not be applicable in all situations. Now, in this times where technology is bringing about new ways of doing the business, see what has reached to a saturation, because of the technology, things can be renewed and it can again start growing. They can find out alternative uses, alternative ways of doing business and attracting more customers. So technology does enable such possibilities. So we cannot define that and then categorize them and talk about it as to shut down or to think about divestment, etc. May not be the situation, because maybe new ways of doing the business also can come up because of um, innovation, because of technological use, etc. So that also is a possibility. Okay, otherwise, how do we categorize them? How do we assess their performance and put them into any of these quadrants? There are 4 quadrants: present good, future also is bright, stars; present not good but future is bright is problem child; present is very good, future is not attractive, cash cows; both of them are not good, dogs. Okay, let's go for a break. It is 10:37 according to my time, so 10:42 we will resume back. Don't have to leave Zoom. I'll just put the recording on hold till that point of time. Okay, 10:42 will resume back. Okay, take a break. Let's continue. So we're looking at strategic development, implementing growth, and assessing the business unit. So implementing growth, what different aspects are there? We have looked into that, and then categorizing a business unit. categorizing a business unit into any of these categories based on their performance. So for a private sector profit seeking organization, performance is measured in terms of how much revenue, how much profit was generated. So that was the basic criteria in terms of evaluating the performance and categorizing them into any of these 4 quadrants. But profit is not the criteria with public sector units. Public sector, their main objective, the purpose of establishing those units is to provide service, to render services to maybe a particular section or at large in general. The purpose is to purpose of establishing these units is to render service, provide service. So there's no concept of earning a profit. Profit maximization is not the criteria. Then how do we evaluate? So we need to evaluate those units also, those public sector units also, and see how they are performing. So the performance measurement, if we look into that, or assessment of the performance of these business units, if we look into that, how do we measure their performance? On the horizontal axis, we see there is a concept called as value for money. There's a concept called as value for money. On the vertical axis, public need and funding effectiveness. First, let's understand what's the concept of value for money. Okay. You do know about value for money. I mean, if you remember, PM, you have studied about the concept of value for money. Yes, you did. So, but I don't know whether you remember. In organizations where profit is not the criteria, service is the criteria, providing service is the criteria. In that case, the measurement of performance in such units will happen by the concept of value for money. There are 3 E's in value for money. The first E talks about economy, the second E talks about efficiency, the third E talks about effectiveness. Because there is no profit, is it okay if they spend as much cost as possible? No. See, the value for money is in terms of, it is measured in terms of what is the benefit they are getting out of spending that cost. Okay, economizing on the cost. They cannot waste cost, because there would be later on no financial accountability in terms of whether profit was earned or not. So that measure anyway is not there. So is it acceptable to spend as much cost as possible, incur as much cost as possible? No. It would be evaluated, measured in terms of how much cost did they save. See, the benefit here is not profit. The benefit is in terms of whether the objective was achieved or not. So the cost benefit analysis will be how much cost was incurred, what was the benefit achieved. So in terms of achieving the benefit, they cannot waste the cost, but they have to economize on the cost. That's the first E. Second E is a comparison of cost benefit analysis. As much cost they are incurring, are they getting the benefit? So cost is the amount spent, benefit is the objective achieved, whether it was achieved or not. That's the second E, efficiency. The third is E is effectiveness. See, effectiveness is with the help of cost saving, with the help of cost benefit analysis, are they able to achieve the overall purpose of the organization for which they are established? So that is the overall efficiency, the overall effectiveness, was it there in terms of achieving the purpose of the organization for which it is established. So the value for money is one variable taken on the horizontal axis. the value for money provided is on the higher side, it's on the lower side. See, on the extreme left, we see it is on the higher side. On the right, we see it is on the lower side. Then the public funding, public need and funding effectiveness. Is there a need in those areas? Is it effectively used? So in that aspect, on the vertical axis, on the top, it is high. On the bottom, it is low. So we see that here also there are 4 different quadrants or 4 categories which are mentioned. So we see that if the value for money is high, the public need is there in that particular area, that sector, the need is there, public need is there, and the funds are also very effectively used. So then it is categorized as public sector star. Here also it is star. Performance is good. Okay. Value for money is high. They are economizing on the cost. They are able to achieve the benefit for the amount of cost that is incurred. They are able to achieve the overall objective. Okay. So that is categorized as a star. Okay. The public also wants the funds to be invested into that. There is effective use of the funds. Here we see that, see, on the vertical axis, it is on the higher side. Okay, public sector star. But if the value for money is high, okay, and the public feel that public need and funding effectiveness is on the lower side, okay, in that case, they called as golden fleece, this category. Public do not feel that there is a need, public need, and the funds are not effectively used. So in that case, they are categorized as golden fleece. So if it is a golden fleece, there is a purpose which can be derived, but the general public, they feel that too much of investment is going into that particular sector. It is not that the purpose is not achieved, the purpose is not served, they are not effectively, reaching their benefit, overall benefit, the cost benefit analysis. All of them are on the higher side, but the perception of the people is that there is too much of investment which is going into that particular sector. So that's categorized as a golden fleece. Golden fleece, wherein so much of investment is not required. Public do not feel that such amount of investment is required. It is better that a portion of the investment of the funds that are invested, because the need is not felt, should be withdrawn. The funds should be withdrawn from that sector, invest elsewhere. Okay, that's golden fleece. The third category, the value for money is on the lower side, but the public feel that there is a need to be invested into that right now, though it is not doing well. Okay, the value for money is on the lower side, so that's categorized as political hot box. Political hot box. It is not effectively managed. That is what we see, because the value for money is on the lower side, it is not effectively managed. Okay, so more efforts have to be put into that particular area, that sector, to get a benefit, because public do want those things. Government hospitals, is the need is there, but they are not effectively managed, so they want these things to continue, but there should be better management, better efficiency to be reflected in that particular sector. So political hot box, the last category. The last category, we see that it is on the lower side about the value for money and the need, uh, the public need and funding effectiveness is also on the lower side. So both of them are on the lower side. So then that is called as backdraw issues. So backdraw issues, it's not effective. We see value for money is on the lower side. Public also do not want. So what can be done? There's no need. There is anyway nothing contributed by that. So it should be withdrawn. So they should discontinue with such kind of services. So that is how we categorize these four categories in case of a public sector unit. So public sector unit, the main aspect of it is the performance is definitely not measured in terms of profit, the amount of revenue generated. Their purpose is completely different. It is about whether services are provided and what is the value for the money that they are spending on rendering those services. So it's taken on the higher side, high value for money is high, or on the lower side low. And what is the perception of the people? Do they want these services to be continued? Is there any effectiveness of using these funds? So any of these four categories. So that's the sixth chapter, implementing growth and assessing business units. Any doubts? Able to follow the pace, explanation, any issue, any changes you want? I'm just going on. It's all one side delivery. I do not know who you are, and but in between, I can always ask if there are any issues. Anything you're not able to follow, or anything you want me to change the pace, or anything? Is it fine? Any suggestions? Yes, no, also there is no answer. No issues can also be one answer. Looks like forcefully I'm making you say there are no issues. Seventh chapter. Let's start the. How many chapters are there in SBL? Any idea how many chapters are there in SBL? 23, 23, 24. Okay. And every chapter, you have something new to learn. Most of the topics are new for you to learn. It's not a continuation of what the content you've learned in the last paper, last semester. Most of them are new. And the number of chapters are also so many are there. Okay, so much content to learn. And yet I'm not taking you on a slower note. I'm going very fast. See, this pace is really fast only. It's not very one class, one model kind of thing. In a 3-hour session, we are doing around about 3 to 4 chapters. We are finishing in a time span of 3 hours. One day, one chapter kind of thing is not going on. Okay, so you are learning a lot of content. That's one aspect of it. This is not just the end of learning the content, but applying this content in case studies. That also. Every topic, one case study I should be, the students should be practicing. If time permits, I would also have done, but time is not available. We don't have so much time. We don't have that luxury of doing multiple case studies. But at least I should be taking you through the case studies, how how do we answer those case studies, what approach should be taken up by the students, and how do we read through the content, analyze that, present in your answer at least. So I need to fit into once in a while at least one or two case studies. So for that, I need to maintain the space. If at all, if there is any issue with any particular topic, content, style of delivery, anything, you can always approach me. Put a message, a direct message to me, so that no one else reads that message. You write something also, I will not mind, because I do not know who you are. You are just a student there on the other side of the device. That's it. Nothing more than that. So don't have to feel anything about that. You can always present your issues, doubts, and then we can take it up and then get it clarified. Done. We'll continue with our content. The next topic. The next topic is corporate governance. The governance general principles. That's chapter 7. Corporate governance is the chapter. We need to understand what's corporate governance first. Okay. There is a definition of corporate governance. The definition of corporate governance says that the system by which companies are directed and controlled in the interest of the shareholders and other stakeholders. Company is an artificial person. It comes into existence when the owners establish that company. The owners, or we also call them as for a company, the owners are the shareholders. So the owners or the shareholders, when they invest their amount into a company, company comes into existence. But shareholders do not manage the affairs of the company. So who manages the affairs of the company? The management, the board of directors, the strategic level, or the senior managers, top managers of the organization, they manage the affairs of the company. See, the investment is made into company by the shareholders. This is just the investment. But management is not with the shareholders. They do not manage the day-to-day affairs. Okay. So the day-to-day affairs of the company, the management is taken care by the strategic leaders of the company. And when they earn the profit, that profit is enjoyed by the shareholders. So the management is acting in the capacity of an agent. So management is now the agent, because they're working on behalf of managing the affairs of the company and earning the profits to be enjoyed by the shareholders. Okay. So the capacity, they are in the capacity of an agent on behalf of the principal, and the principal is the shareholders and other stakeholders. So in their interest, in their benefit, the decisions are taken. So the definition, it talks about the system by which companies are directed and controlled in the interest, for whom, for whose benefit are they working? They are working in the benefit, for the benefit of the shareholders, the investors, and all the other stakeholders. So that concept is called as corporate governance. That's the meaning of corporate governance. The system by which companies are directed and controlled in the interests of shareholders and other stakeholders. Okay. We see that shareholders, when the company is controlled and managed, see the ownership, we see the ownership is with the shareholders. They own the company because they invest their amount into the company. They are the owners. So, but they do not manage the affairs of the company. So this authority is delegated to the board of directors or the top management, and these board of directors control the affairs of the company to achieve the objectives. Shareholders have established the company to maximize their profit or to achieve whatever is the purpose which they want to achieve. See, along with profit maximization, it could be customer satisfaction, it could be providing quality products and services to the customers, etc. So whatever is the purpose, there's some objective of the company. So the shareholders establish the company to achieve that objective. But since they do not manage the affairs of the company, the authority is delegated to the top management or the board of directors. They take decisions, they manage the affairs of the business, they control the business and achieve the objectives. So these objectives should be the same objectives as the objectives of the organization, the purpose with which the company was established. If it is not equal, then it is poor corporate governance. Otherwise, it is good corporate governance. Okay. So here we identify that there is a agency relationship between the shareholders and the management. So management acts in the capacity of agent for the principal shareholders. There are 10 key concepts of corporate governance. There are 10 key concepts of corporate governance. I'll put another slide. Here we just see that there are points given. What are the 10 key concepts? Little in detail explanation we will look into what these 10 key concepts are. I'll put another PPT only for understanding these particular key concepts. The first one says is fairness. First key concept of governance is fairness. Fairness is not having an favorable attitude or not showing any kind of favoritism or partiality towards a particular stakeholder, but it talks about a sense of equality in dealing with internal stakeholders. So a sense of even-handedness in dealing with external stakeholders, an ability to reach an equitable judgment. Fairness, fair attitude, equitable judgment, because if there is a biased attitude, if they show favoritism to somebody, then the decision would also have that impact on them. So decisions that are taken without having any kind of an impact, their unbiased attitude and impartial attitude, not having any such thing, any such attitude, but in with all fairness dealing with that. In equities, treating all the stakeholders equally, equity. That's fairness in terms of dealing with them. Because see, when internal external analysis are taken up, they do understand what are the weaknesses internally. They do understand what are the threats that are present in the external environment. Considering that, the decision should be taken. So in all fairness, the decision, the judgment should be taken. That's the first attitude, first attribute here, or the key concept of corporate governance. See, corporate governance is about effectively managing the affairs of the company for the benefit of the stakeholders. That's the corporate governance. So when they are managing, it's not their own company which they are running, but it is someone else's business which they are managing. That's the concept of that's the concept of corporate governance. So when they are managing the affairs of some others company, some others business, so they have to have that equity attitude or fairness attitude. They cannot um, have a biased attitude towards any of the stakeholders, internal nor external. But with all equity, with all fairness, the decision should be taken. That's the first attitude. Second one is openness and transparency. Okay, openness and transparency. Whatever are their decisions, whatever they decide, there should be transparency in that. See, the decisions that they take, it is not holding back any information, but making it clear that openness should be there, that transparency should be there in terms of how they are taking decisions. That's openness and transparency. Innovation, um, is monotonously doing the same work again and again. Instead of doing that, think about innovative ways in which the work can be carried on. The decisions, what they take right from the managing the affairs of the company and reporting of the financial transactions in every aspect of it, wherever it is possible, to bring about a change, to bring about some improvement, to bring about innovation into the way they are doing that. See, if there is no innovation, if they go with conformity, if they go with the same old methods, maybe they will not be able to explore any better ways of doing the work and thus achieving any kind of efficiency. That would not be a possibility. Therefore, innovation occurs when a firm transforms knowledge and ideas into new products, process, and systems for the benefit of firm and its stakeholders. So, need to find out what are the different ways, innovative ways in which the activities can be carried out. So that should be brought about. It is just not continuing with the same old methods and ways of doing the work, but rather think about how differently they can do the work, innovatively they can think about and do the work. That's innovation. Third one is skepticism. Skepticism, yesterday also we've discussed about skepticism, um, that questioning attitude. Instead of going along with what is being carried on in the organization, look at whether it is really beneficial for the company or not. So that's skepticism. Okay. They have to have that. So think about whether it is actually beneficial for the company, for the stakeholders. Next one is independence. Independence, they have to have that independence from personal influence of senior management. For non-executive directors, we will be discussing today, so we may not be discussing. I will come back to that slide. See, we have to discuss about the different types of directors who constitute the top management. So in that category, I will have to talk to you right away, though we will not be doing that. We will be discussing about NED's non-executive directors. So the composition of who would be there as part of the board of directors, we will be discussing. But right away, though, at least in two classes, at least we will not be coming to this point. But nevertheless, at this point of time, just remember that there should be independence. So what does it mean by independence in terms of decisions? So it talks about independence from personal influence of senior management for non-executive directors. The board of directors, the top management, that board constitutes different categories of directors, BC executive directors, BC non-executive directors. See, because the executive directors, they receive their remuneration from the company. Okay, um, their decisions um, they are dependent on the amount of benefit which they are receiving. See, if they are benefited on account of some reflection of the situation, the profitability. So to just project that they may agree for whatever comes their way, because their remuneration is connected to the performance of the company. That can result in they also being involved in some kind of a manipulation of the finance statement. Someone who is a non-executive director, his remuneration does not come. He's not directly receiving his monthly salary or remuneration from the company. Of course, he receives some honorarium from the company, there's some benefit, but he always has that independence in terms of taking decisions. So, independence from personal influence of senior management. They need not be subject to receiving a benefit. So they need not be under the pressure of receiving a personal benefit from the senior management. So their decisions could be independent. They need not come under that influence. So that's the point of it. So corporate governance, at least one portion or one part of the board of directors should be with the non-executive directors, where uh, they do not have that personal influence of the senior management on them, and therefore they either agree or they disagree, or uh, decisions can be taken in that particular manner. So there we see that the corporate governance should have that kind of independence, should not be subject to any kind of personal influence of anyone in the senior management. So that is independence. Okay. Then the decisions that are taken are unbiased. Next key concept is probity and honesty. Honesty, we know that is self-explanatory. Honesty in financial and positional reporting. So when the uh, financial reporting takes place, there should be without any kind of misrepresentation or misleading information included in that. So honesty or probity. There is something mentioned about a foundation ethical stance in both principle and rule based system. Right now, though, I'm not explaining, but I will explain about what is rule based corporate governance, what is principle based corporate governance. See, depending on the availability of time, maybe in today or in the coming next week when we have the classes, we will take it up. Next one, responsibility. See, when decisions are taken, see, corporate governance is basically managing and controlling the affairs of the company. So, when it is about managing the affairs of the company, certain decisions have to be taken up. These decisions, when they are taking, there should be some amount of responsibility to be taken up by the management in terms of the decisions that they take. So willingness to accept liability for the outcome of governance decisions. So that's responsibility. So clarity in the definition of roles and responsibilities, and then see to what extent they would be responsibility and willingness to take up the responsibility. Okay. Conscientious business and personal behavior. When they are willing to take up the responsibility, then there would be accountability. Okay, accountability for the decisions which they take. Willingness to take up responsibility, based on that they would be held accountable if any decision is not appropriate. So that accountability is another thing. It's just not about their willingness to take up responsibility. They are also held responsible for the decisions that are taken by them. They have to consider the reputation, so developing and sustaining personal reputation through other moral virtues. So it also focuses on the ethical values, ethical stances which they take when they take up the when they take decisions for the corporate. Judgment is without any biased attitude, all by unbiased attitude, able to take the best possible judgment or decision in that scenario prevailing. they can apply the knowledge taken from the previous situation, business acumen, and then take a judgment, ability to reach and communicate meaningful conclusions to arrive at a conclusion, the ability to weigh up numerous issues and give each due consideration. Then development of a balanced, evaluated approach to making business decisions and personal relationships, covering intellectual and moral aspects. So, ability to take the best possible decision for the organization. Integrity. Integrity is the last one. Integrity talks about doing the right thing in all situations. What ought to be done has to be done in all situations, even if they are not under observation by anyone. It is an underlying and underpinning principle of corporate governance, and it is required that all those representing shareholders' interest in agency relationships both possess and exercise absolute integrity in all times. Even if there is no one observing them, also they have to exhibit that integrity. Okay. Integrity in terms of looking at the best, working in the best interest of the shareholders and the other stakeholders. So that's about integrity. These are 10 key concepts. Please learn them. The content is there in the study text. Please learn them very well. Understand that. In the case study, they may ask you to elaborate on what are the key concepts applicable in that particular situation. So unless and until you have that clarity conceptually, you will not be able to apply those key concepts into that particular situation. Okay. Please read through the study text. As the topics are being covered in the class, you also put an effort from your end to go through the content which is there in the exam study text. Okay. As and when it is possible, I will also make you do solve few questions from the examination kit. Otherwise, when see, also along with that, whenever you find time to practice few questions, you should be taking it up from the exam kit. But after Monday, I think we will have a clarity about how we will be proceeding further. The next slide here talks about what are the operational areas affected by corporate governance. See, areas of organization affected by corporate governance, we see that we have board of directors, the board of directors, the board committees, the different types of committees. We will be running through that. Though it looks very basic, I mean, to kind of a dry topic, that what are the roles and responsibilities of who all constitute board of directors, the executive directors, non-executive directors. Then we have different types of committees: nomination committee, remuneration committee, audit committee. What are the roles, responsibilities, duties, etc. I'll try to present it as in a better manner, trying to understand that with an illustration or something. We will do that. So we understand what are the duties and functions. Then we see the composition and how the reporting is taken up by them. Then we have to discuss about the director's remuneration and how it can have an impact on the decisions that are taken. Director's remuneration and issues related to the remuneration. The relations with shareholders. Is it institutional investors or institutional, or is it private? Then when it comes to accountability and audit, see, we will have to study in detail about the risk and internal control. So there's a framework which is studied that would be connected to the corporate governance also. So to have an effective internal control system installed in the organization, so that risk can be effectively managed, to ensure that no fraud happens in the future. There is a reason beyond that, behind that, about many accounting frauds that have happened across the world, and how it has affected many economies in the global scenario, what impact it had. So we will be studying about risk and internal control, and we will be looking into about the audit part of it. As I have just now explained to you about the agency theory. Agency theory, we see that the principal is the shareholders. The board of directors are acting in the capacity of agents in terms of achieving the object, which is the task, that is managing the company. So the agents manage on behalf of the principal, and the accountability is there. Okay. Principal employs the agents, they work on behalf of the principal, and they are accountable. They are also accountable to the principal. They are appointed as agents to perform the task of the company, achieve the objectives. Agency theory and corporate governance. Agency theory and corporate governance first. Companies owned and managed by same people. Expansion is required by investors, shareholders. In case of a limited liabilities, they do contribute the capital amount into the to the company. Then delegated running of company to managers. To run the affairs of the company, delegated running of company to managers, then separation of goals. Goals are, and then the agency problem arises. What's the agency problem? What is separation of goals? See, the purpose why the company is established is to ensure that the uh, organizational objectives are achieved. Directors are appointed, they are delegated with authority to control the affairs of the company and ultimately achieve the same objectives. Okay. But if at all if the directors have a different set of objectives, that would be called as dysfunctional behavior on part of the directors. If they are looking at their personal benefit rather than the benefit of the company, then the goals will definitely be different. When the goals are different, then we see the agency problems arise. Uh, no, I was just thinking about should we be taking up a case study about discussing how the agency problems arise and they have to be handled? Well, that's what I was thinking about. Nevertheless, we'll just discuss about it. I'll look at the time, see if the time is sufficient, it is available. One very small case study, I would like to solve it in the class now or the next class. See, why is that problems arise? That's the importance. Why is that there is an agency problem when the agents are appointed by the investors, by the shareholders? Um, the agents should work in the best interest of the shareholders. But if they do not act in the best interest of the um, shareholders, then what is the issue is what we will be looking into. Plus, I'm not sure whether I will be able to fit the case study here or not. But let's see. What are the key concepts of agency theory? The key concepts of agency theory, we see that there's an agent employed by the principal. Agency is the relationship they have between them. See, there is a principal appointing the agents to work on their behalf. So there is a relationship which is existing, which is the agency. There are agency costs that are incurred. So whatever is the cost that is incurred to make the payment to the shareholders and the benefits that are provided to the shareholders. Okay. The authority is delegated, but the accountability is always there. So there is accountability. There is a fiduciary responsibility on behalf of the board of directors towards the shareholders. So there is a fiduciary responsibility. Then they have to work in the best interest of the stakeholders. So stakeholders are shareholders and other stakeholders, the best interest of the customers and the other stakeholders, government, towards everybody, every stakeholder, they have a responsibility. Now, this is in terms of achieving the overall objectives of the organization. Okay. There are few examples of what are costs of agency relationship. The incentive schemes for directors, we need to focus on this one. See, there are from time to time on achieving certain targets, there are incentives announced to the directors. See, providing and reviewing the data that is um, for the performance measurement, providing and reviewing data. Meetings have to be conducted from time to time to take decisions. Then, when decisions are taken, some of the decisions involve risk. They have to base their decisions on the aspect that risk is involved, whether they would want to accept risk or not. See, risk, if it is accepted, why would anyone accept risk? What's the relationship between risk and return? Any one of you? Is there any relationship between risk and return? Risk is high, return is high. So, intentionally accepting those decisions or proposals or projects where there is higher risk. Of course, when the risk is high, the returns are high, so that is the motivating factor. But then there is always an aspect that they can be hit by the risk. See, the downside risk is not always negative, but more most of the time it is looked in from a negative aspect only. If at all, if they are hit by a negative risk that arises, accountability comes into picture. So the ability to take up or accept higher risk, accepting higher risk, monitoring the behavior of how they are they're taking the decisions and what is being implemented. In spite of managing the risk, see, risk management we will be studying after a while. In spite of managing the risk, all risks are not controllable. Some of the risks can be controlled. Most of the risks are controlled with a effective risk management system. The process, when it is implemented, risk can be effectively managed so that the impact can be reduced. In spite of that, if at all, if there is some more loss that is remaining, what do they do with that? See, how do they? They have to accept that residual loss or risk that is present. So that is the residual loss. Even if they are not effectively managing, also there's some amount of risk that can be remaining. So these are the costs of agency relationship. So when there are agents that are appointed to look into the affairs of the company, anyway, the remuneration, the incentives, the bonus, all those things which are paid to the agents. Apart from that, the principal also has to spend some time in terms of providing and reviewing data, meetings to be participated. See, the cost of the management taking decisions which involve risk. See, if they are affected by the risk, what impact does it have? And to constantly monitor their behavior, the management's behavior, and how do they deal with, if at all, if there is any amount of risk which is still remaining even after managing the risk. See, agency problem resolution measures. Meetings should be conducted with the principal key investors. Voting at the AGM, annual general meeting. So, shareholders, the ordinary equity shareholders have the voting rights proportional to the amount of shares which they own in the company. So, when decisions are to be taken, they have to cast their vote for a particular decision. So, um, by participating in the annual general meeting and voting for the decisions, they can look into how the decisions are taken by the agents or the board of directors, then arrive at resolutions at AGMs, and then accepting takeovers, divestment of shares. Um, so the control can be diluted. The accepting takeovers. So whoever are the shareholders, then they have the voting powers with them, so they can participate in the decision making. See, if the takeovers are accepted, then we see that the there would be other shareholders also coming into picture. So there we see that the control which is there um, in terms of taking decisions, that could be diluted. Accepting takeover, if they withdraw their investment from uh, any unit of the business, divestment. See, some of the units seem to be quite attractive. So the focus is all in terms of being benefited out of that, and then the decisions could be in favor of that. So if they consider divestment, then the attractive part can be separated from the business unit, and the decisions that are taken by the management also will be affected to that particular extent. So divestment of shares. The agency accountability, how do they bring about accountability of the board of directors into that? So act in shareholders interest. They have to act in shareholders interest, but we will be looking into certain examples and situations where they do not act in the best interest of the shareholders, but they act in their personal interest. So that's called as dysfunctional behavior. That also we will be looking into. The agency accountability is when they act in the shareholders' interest. They have to provide good information as and when it is required, without any misrepresentation, misinformation being included into the information provided to the management, because manage to the stakeholders, because the stakeholders interest lies with, or it is connected to the information that is provided, because the decisions are dependent on the information. So when the information is provided by the management, this should be without any misleading issues or misleading information being included into that. So provide good information. See, if the information provided by the management is not reliable, to that extent, decisions also get affected. Okay. Next, operate within legal structure, following all the rules and regulations. The comply with all whatever has to be followed, the rules and regulations. So operate within legal structure. Okay. There are transaction cost theory, external transactions. Types of costs are uh, search and information, bargaining and decision, policing and enforcement. See, the relevant information that has to be provided. All possible measures should be taken up in terms of searching that information and then acquiring that information and providing that information, because decisions are based on that. Um, Decisions are based on the information that is provided. So acquire the best possible information and provide that as and when it is required. That is one aspect about the different types of cost, search and information, then ability to take the best possible decision, bargaining, and arriving at decision, and policing and enforcement, ensure that it is effectively implemented. Okay, so that would be about the different types of cost that are in connection with the agency problems. The topics are going kind of dry. So at the end of the class, I'm just looking at if I can provide some topic which seems to be little interesting. Um, for the past, I think 15-20 minutes, the topics are all quite dry. Um, so I'm just looking at what can I explain. Should I be starting with the case study? But case study has some of the content which we have not covered. So then that also would not be appropriate. Therefore, I'm just looking at how do I present it little interesting. That's it. So if it were a model or something, a model will be quite interesting. But this is a topic which is going on a dry note. Okay, 1 second. Um, Transactions cost can be further impacted. See factors impacting the cost. Um, we see that there's bounded rationality, there's opportunism. Sorry. We talk about what are the transaction costs. The transaction costs about um, the different types of costs that are incurred. See, the costs that are incurred in terms of having this agency relationship. See, there are certain costs that are to be paid to the members of board of directors. There are certain other things about monitoring their behavior, looking at what decisions they are taking, the responsibility, the accountability. Then we see that how the information that is provided, they have to acquire that, search and acquire that information so that it is useful in that. And then how things are to be taken up, how do they implement that, effectively implement that. So all those things are to be taken up. So these factors impacting the cost should be bounded by rationality. See, with all fairness, see whether it is beneficial for them, for the organization or not, and then make good of any opportunity that comes their way. But then how frequently would they be looking at incurring these costs? So the frequency part of it, we consider the uncertainty of the decisions, the benefits that can be derived out of the transaction cost that is incurred, and uh, see the amount of asset specificity, see degree of impact on cost, see how frequently will they have an impact because of incurring that cost, or what kind of benefit would they get, see whether there would be any amount of benefit which they would be, or any impact which they would be received, and um, see with certainty how long the benefit will be realized. So these aspects have also to be taken into account. Some situation where we can implement, or we can put this into a case study, I will try to look into that, and then we will see that it can be made little interesting, and then proceed further. Corporate governance in case of a public sector. The governance part of it, we are learning the concept of governance with respect to how effectively they manage the affairs of it. See, in case of private sector, the accountability is there towards the shareholders, because profit is one important aspect. Of course, along with the shareholders, there are other stakeholders also. They they are they have to look into the interest of other stakeholders also. But here, the concept of external shareholders would not be there. Then, in that case, how do we take into account the corporate governance in case of public sector? So public sector governance, how does it happen? A range of organizations exist in most economies with three types predominant. So one is private sector. In private sector, the objective we see is seeking profit. See, profit maximization, seeking profit, earning profit for the shareholders and the other stakeholders for their benefit, looking into that. Under private sector only, we see that some of the organizations may not be looking at profit maximization. So they are called as charities. They are there in the private sector, run by the private sector, but profit is not their primary objective. So we call them as charities, which are charitable or benevolent. Then we see the public sector. The public sector, the primary objective is to provide services, delivering goods or services not provided by for-profit entities. We also call them as not-for-profit organizations. Charities and public sector, they are not-for-profit organizations. The concept of governance in a public sector. The latter are operated predominantly by the state, self-governing autonomous region made up of four sectors, four aspects. We see the government is there, the legislature, the judiciary, and the secretariat. See, in case of public sector governance, the four aspects of governance in public sector. First one, there is a government which is elected by the people. They are an elected body. The legislature, it is in the UK Houses of Parliament, in the Parliament, the houses that are there. The judiciary, independently appointed. The judiciary which makes them accountable without being biased by anything. It's an independent body, the judiciary independently appointed to look at the benefits of the public at large. Then the secretariat, separate administrative body to carry out state functions, for example, education. Public sector governance, who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders are the public sector. We see the stakeholder relationship is more complicated in the public sector. Of particular sensitivity in this context is the use of taxpayers' funds. Otherwise, the funds are raised from, in a private sector, the funds are raised from different sources of capital, equity capital, debt capital. Then they are accountable to earn a profit available to the shareholders. So the accountability comes in terms of what is the amount of profit that is earned on the amount invested by the investors. See, from the debt amount which is invested, there seems to be an obligation to earn returns and pay interest on the debt capital. On equity capital, they have to ensure that the profit is maximized and made available to the shareholders. Here in this case, it is not a separate group of investors, but all the amounts that are collected from the taxpayers, those funds are used to be invested into the public sector. So the concept of accountability. So how do we bring about the accountability into picture is what we will have to look into that. Of particular sensitivity in this context is the use of taxpayers' funds. These can be perceived to be used for services which are no benefit. Now, this is one important aspect which we need to look into that. Debt holders, they are paid an interest. It's an obligation to pay an interest. So there's accountability. If profits are not earned, then they would fall under an issue about how would they meet the interest payment. Obligation is there. Shareholders, once they are dissatisfied if profits are not earned, they can withdraw their investment. That will have a negative, drastic impact on the company. So there is some accountability which is there in case of a private sector. Here, taxpayer is someone who's contributing the tax amount. That amount is utilized for some purpose. Out of that, most of the time, the taxpayer is in no way getting benefit. So that accountability, to clear cut drawing and accountability, making them accountable to the people who are contributing that amount, doesn't exist. So now the issue becomes complicated there. Okay, so are of no benefit to the person paying the tax. This gives rise to the question of agent principle within the public sector. So they are not acting on the in the best interest of the taxpayers. The taxpayers are contributing, but accountability part of it is not present there in case of public sector. The problem of agents in the public sector, further when we look into that, those that manage a business do not own that business, but manage the business on behalf of those who do not who do own it, hence the concept of agency. But in public sector, we see that the principles are different, and rather than being, for example, shareholders, what I have explained, see, if in private sector, they are accountable to the contributors or to the investors. Here, we do not see such thing. The contributors are someone else. They do not get benefited. They are not accountable to them. So the agency problem is on a different note. Private sector, it is directly related there. They are accountable. They are answerable to the investors. Here, we do not see any such thing. Funders and service users are therefore sometimes the same people, but often they are not, giving rise to disagreement on how. So that's why, see, in many of these countries, so the question always arises about how effectively are the taxpayers' funds utilized. Okay, then we do look into sometime back today. I did explain to you about the concept of value for money. So it would be measured in terms of value for money. The first he talks about, are they taking every possible measure to economize on the cost that is spent? Are they looking at proportionally for the amount of cost that is incurred? Are they getting the benefit out of this cost benefit analysis, and ultimately achieving the overall purpose for which the funds are achieved? So measure the performance in case of public sector organization by way of measuring the value for money, which is measured by 3 E's, depicted as the 3 E's: economy, effectiveness, and efficiency. Okay, we'll stop here. Okay, we have stakeholder theory, then the rest of it proceeds further with approaches to government. We will learn about one day also, for quite a long time, we will be discussing about the governance part of it only. But as I mentioned about, I will take up a case study on Porter's five forces, or some case study, even on governance also, one small case study can be done. So some case study we will take it up on in the class on Monday, and then proceed further. Okay. We do have other models also little later, but for some time we will be focusing on various aspects of governance, and then comes internal control, then internal audit, etc. So those aspects also do come into that. So as in where I can fit in case studies, I will definitely do that, so that we can understand how to attempt to answer such questions. Okay. Attendance, I will mark it looking into Zoom account because it's time consuming. Yesterday I got disconnected, then it was only 2 minutes left after that. Though I got connected, I did not join back because it was already time. I will mark attendance, taking the students' attendance from Zoom account, because calling in so many names is not feasible for me also. Any doubts in what we've learned in today's class? Anything which you want me to explain in a different aspect, or something, some clarity you require, or anything else, any issue which you have? As I told you, you can always put that in a direct message to me, so that only I will look into that and then I can address that. Any issue? Okay, then meet you on Monday. Okay, good day.